just can't get over season 8 of Game of Thrones. This new show could be good, could be bad. Just if you are not going to reshoot season 8, give me the new show and make it good, okay? Make it good. You're bringing different people and I do appreciate that.
Plus the pilot episode was awesome.
Keeps coming back. Season 8 of Game of Thrones.
So there is a new show around, and you want to know if it actually is any good.
Well, the short answer is, yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm kidding, of course, it was awesome!
House of the Dragon, first episode. You want to know everything, and I've got you.
This pilot episode made me excited again for the world of Ice and Fire.
It's a great comeback.
Hopefully it can keep up like this.
It's not as good as first 4 seasons yet, but I'm not attached to the characters. We're gonna have to see.
It looks awesome, heart-wrenching. There are several member berries and a bit of nostalgia. Could have been better.
I guess my biggest criticism is that it doesn't stand on its own.
There were moments sort of referenced the Game of Thrones, and it referenced the bad parts of Game of Thrones. It was great within the episode, but it reminded me of things.
More original music. Definitely. Intro scene. There was no intro scene. I hope there is a new intro scene with original music distinctive enough from Game of Thrones, because what I liked about this pilot is that it all takes place in King's Landing and they can focus a bit more on the action side. You already know the scope of the world, so it makes sense for a successor prequel show in its pilot episode to focus on just like one location and a smaller set of characters and just one story unfolds.
And also I like the medieval accuracy aspect. Swords are the right size, the armor looks great, the main character doesn't have a great helmet. He probably was the most expensive actor. Let's show his face. And what I would love to see more is humor. I get it, Targaryens were never particularly funny. I can see that they probably went that way, but I would love to see more humor. Just not the jokes.
Men without big cock. Because I have, you don't. I'm afraid.
He also wants to give you
his big
dick. That's it.
You even heard you have
Must have shown it to her by now.
It's like since season 6 it was just like big jokes and that was the only thing, so.
You want to suck my... I like it.
I'm already in love with some of the characters, which didn't happen so fast in Game of Thrones. I hope these characters will grow on me.
This first episode is basically focused on 3 characters. It's a bit different than the pilot of Game of Thrones, which had to, you know, introduce a lot of characters. So I actually appreciate that. Yes, I'm from Europe.
Not like this.
Like this. King Viserys, his daughter Rhaenyra, and his brother Matt Damon. I've heard it somewhere. Daemon Targaryen, played by Matt Smith. So basically, he's Matt Damon.
Paddy Constantine as the King Viserys. Awesome. I want to see more of that guy.
I thought he was like a goofy king in the beginning.
He definitely grew on me. You know, like at first in the episode he was a little bit weird. Kind of like Robert.
The gods for Bessie.
He isn't in the end, so he has the biggest character arc throughout the entire pilot episode. Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen, super cool. I loved a lot of things about that character. He's like one of those grey, not purely black and white characters, and I love that. Millie Alcock, that's a bad name for a girl, especially in Game of Thrones. But besides that, she was surprisingly great. I loved her intro scene where she climbs off the dragon. I think that was like the greatest introduction to a character when she, you know, like takes off her glove with her teeth. She is playful and she doesn't obey the rules and she's not like a lady, especially comparing to Alicent Hightower, who's her best friend. She behaves more like a lady. So you got those 3 principal characters. The best secondary character in that pilot is by a landslide Rhys Ifans as Lord Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King. I love that he was like a Littlefinger, had more power, so he was able to leverage that. So basically like Littlefinger and Tywin together. Yeah, because Tywin had all the power, right? He was the biggest powerhouse in Game of Thrones. He's also my favorite character. Heart-wrenching performance from Emma Targaryen. The actress was in Sherlock. I can't remember her name, but she was really good. Oh god, that was a gut-wrenching moment. Corlys Velaryon, this is the thing I know. I know he's supposed to be a badass. He wasn't introduced as such, so I hope there's gonna be more. You know, he's not introduced as this big seafarer, you know, like adventurer. Maybe in the future. It's just the pilot, and they crammed a lot of stuff in. And yeah, I can't wait to see more Petty Constantine. I hope he doesn't, you know, like go away soon. I've heard there's a time jump. He grew on me, and he grew throughout the episode. Matt Damon Targaryen, Matt Smith. He was really cool too. I love sort of back and forth between Otto and Daemon. The show delivered on that dynamic, and I really liked Rhaenyra. The scenes are awesome. I think it's the craziest scene in all of the Game of Thrones, probably. It's the most shocking, like not story-wise yet, just like the visual heart-wrenching scene. So that was, I like that it was intercut with Daemon fighting in the tourney. It works, sort of, you've got like two characters, they both lose in the end, and then they have the major confrontation later. There is a very graphic scene of penis getting chopped off. It wasn't necessary, really, I'd say, but I get it. Okay, so we've got that. There were like two scenes where I had to go like, I don't want to see that. They went a little bit too far, but that's like two shots. The nudity, it has sort of a purpose there, whereas in the first couple of seasons, a lot of the times, it did not have purpose. For me, one of the biggest questions, and I'm guessing for you also, was how much politics, and, you know, let's give it a proper name, how much female empowerment, this social justice warrior agenda is destroying movies, it's destroying stories, it's destroying IPs, and I like female characters, and I think they're awesome. Game of Thrones was always really good for this, because you've got the strong female characters, and it was a great fit for the universe of Ice and Fire, because when it's a fully realized character, you know what they've been through, you know the story, it works. Game of Thrones crossed that line, but not so bad that I would want to gouge my eyes out. Unlike Star Wars, unlike Terminator Dark Fate. But the thing is, the marketing for House of the Dragon, pushing the agenda, and you know, a lot of the trailers went in that sort of direction. So I was worried. I was really like worried it would be there. This story is heavily focused on female characters, on the problems of succession, but it's done tastefully. And if it's done tastefully and right, it's completely okay. I think they've actually hit the home run with this show, because it's perfect. You know, like feminist people who run the Hollywood now, ultra-leftist people, can be appeased by this show. Because, hey, we got some female characters, they go through the struggle, you know, like it's in there, and the message is in there. So yeah, I'd be okay with this. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's great. You can wrap it around in good writing, which is always better, and it fits the story, so it's not a problem. The problem is when you inject these characters and these stories and problems within the story where they don't belong. I think it's a great compromise. The only thing that should not have happened is the marketing. You've got the Velaryons, mainly Lord Corlys Velaryon. He looks cool, like dark skin, white Jamaica hair. It fits. Do I like it? I've heard a quote from George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal that they wanted to differentiate Velaryons from Targaryens. I think it makes sense from Valyria. They are not from Westeros, which would not make sense. There are black characters in A Song of Ice and Fire. They are from Summer Isles. The fact that they are black is completely okay within the show, but then it raises the question, like, they are basically like Targaryens 2.0 from the same place, and they share blood with Targaryens, so that's kind of weird. But race swapping them is much better than race swapping Starks or something like that, so I'm okay with that. It gives them distinctive characteristics. Lord Corlys looks cool, I love it. It's weird that he doesn't have white beard and he has white hair. It looks good, but this is the thing, so Corlys is cool. His kids look weird, the wigs look weird. It looks better with Corlys because he's got a beard. Corlys looks cool. This House of the Dragon show, I was skeptical at first, but it has the Game of Thrones element, politics and scheming and, you know, like grey characters, and it's an argument that I haven't seen anywhere. You've got a new Game of Thrones show, what story can you pick? Because you've got fandom that didn't like the season 8, so you want to bring good things, a long night, just based on the fact that that storyline got completely butchered. There's not much of Game of Thrones in the long night, I would say. There's enough Game of Thrones in Robert's Rebellion. As much as I would like to see like a movie of it. Most people, if they paid attention during the show, they know how it went, basically. Way too close to the main Game of Thrones storyline. You want the intrigue, you want the mystery. And then there was a talk of either Aegon's conquest or Nymeria. Conquest story of one particular character, you know, like with side characters, but you know how it ends up a little bit. It wouldn't be like Game of Thrones. To do the Dance of the Dragons is the best idea, because you've got a show that could be similar to Game of Thrones in its heyday. Everything is in there. It's not like an action adventure, which you have other IPs for that. You want to see the Game of Thrones, right? This is great because not many people read the book. You know, Game of Thrones always had a fantasy element. A lot of people like the dragons, direwolves. So it actually is great that we have the element in the show. We have the dragons. But coming back to it, this was the best idea because you've got the mystery and you've got the politics and scheming. How to fix Game of Thrones and this IP. The best thing would be to reshoot season 8, at least. Most people would agree. The second best would be if George actually finishes his books soon. Come on, George. Just write the winter, please. Just like finish it and then the dream of spring. And the third best thing is a great successor show which has the good elements from Game of Thrones season 1 to 4. This show so far delivers. And I know. I want the books. I want the books more than the season 8, but I'm thinking of from the HBO perspective. HBO, I know it's not your fault. You wanted to finish Game of Thrones properly. You should not have trusted those hacks. D&D. I can understand that. The show was successful. I think this is the first major step towards winning the fans back again. You certainly got me there. It's awesome. Maybe people are scared of this show because how Game of Thrones season 8 ended, or maybe people are unsure. They've never seen Game of Thrones. By the way, you don't have to. But there's a prophecy at the end. It was written spectacularly. But I was reminded, just stay away from season 8 of Game of Thrones, please. The pacing was superb. The ending montage, when you've got the finally what I would consider is an original music. I love that they're releasing it week by week. Way better than binge watching. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. Of course, the spoiler review is coming. I hope to see you there. I really need my own quotes for this, but don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Helps to send a message to HBO, to new fans, to old fans that this is great. And of course, helps me grow. If you like this video, giving it a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. And of course, subscribing is good for you, because if you like the content, then it's gonna find you. It sends a feedback to me that I should continue and make more videos. Can't wait to shoot more. Okay, so see you in the spoiler review. It's kind of awkward to watch it to recommend the show and watch it with friends or family. I watched it with my sister. It was weird. I think a lot of people like Tywin. I think he was perfectly suited for the world. I wouldn't like Tywin to be my father or my grandfather, but for the world of Game of Thrones, he was perfectly suited. He wasn't a real villain in my sort of perception of it, so I love Tywin.